welcome to another episode of Reptile Fight Club. What's going on? I'm Justin Julander. I've forgotten how to do this. It's been a while. And here with me is Mr. Chuck Boland.
My friend, your face. I haven't seen your face in forever. You've been foreign countrying and doing all sorts of gallivanting. What is up?
It's a rough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. You look good. You look recharged. You look energized. Is that true?
I feel pretty tired, but yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
well, you're hiding it well.
Yeah, coming back to the cold and the snow again. Man, it's not going to let up out here. It's
really?
Yeah. I don't know how it is down south. We got a couple guests with us tonight. Chris Jensen and Aspen.Who. Did I pronounce that right?
It's whatever you want it to be, but that is how I use it, yes.
Okay.
It is,
I use it
honest.
as Mayhem. Yeah, let's be honest. Justin's going to screw it up anyway. So
if anybody's going to, it'll be Justin.
I'm just glad I remembered. Like, usually it comes time to say somebody's name, I'm like, oh. So, yeah. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
How's the weather down south? Is it
cold,
time to herp
wet.
yet? Still cold?
Not today.
No, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
I found a side blotch lizard today, actually.
All right. That's a good sign.
Real
I
exciting.
didn't get nerves today.
Yeah. That's
we're
something
getting
you
close.
rarely see down there. That's
No, you never see them.
or
Really
you
rare.
always see them. One of the two. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. This should be fun. So, let's see. We met in 2018, 2019. When was that?
Probably.
Yeah.
It's been
I
at least a
think it was
couple of years
2019. Was it 2019?
I think that
It's been a
was.
now. Me and Aspen were.
Yeah.
No, me and Aspen were talking about this just the other day. Me and him started talking in 2016, and we're like, "How the heck has it been that long?" And we're both regretting it.
It's been a hell of a trip.
We pointed out he messaged me first, so it's all his fault.
I take full fault for that.
Yeah. So were you guys like out herping on your own then, and then you kind of joined forces, or?
We didn't really start hardcore herping until we started hanging out together. Before then, it was kind of incidental. Oh, look, I found a snake.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you're a teenager and you're out there and you're not sure if you're grabbing a rattlesnake or a gopher snake because you don't really know. And you haven't learned yet, so yeah.
Yeah.
I still do that.
I saw Keith McPeak on Facebook saying he was coming to Utah to go down to St. George to herp with you guys, and I'm like, well, if Keith is coming, then I'm gonna go. So I kind of invited myself.
You pulled a Chuck.
I did. Yeah.
Good job.
It worked out, yeah.
Well
and then
done.
We were glad you came. That made it fun.
It was
ended up
a lot of
not
fun.
coming, and then I was like, can I still come if Keith doesn't come? So, I mean, Chris didn't know me from Adam, but he put me up in his guest bedroom, and we did some good herping, found some fun stuff. Got a Gila the first night we were there, so that was a good way to start.
That was all your Gila, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
heard
think
a
we
little
found a
scratching.
Gila, right? Found
What's
that
that?
Gila, a long nose, and some desert tortoises.
Desert tortoises. Yeah.
It was not a bad little outing.
Yeah. That was a good start to the trip for sure.
Yeah, I feel like if you pull your weight like that, finding the Gila, you're probably doing okay as far as
Well, me and Chris walked right past it, and Justin goes, "Hey, I hear something in the bushes." And it was dark by then, and he shines his light and goes, "Gila!" We're like, "Oh."
Nice.
You're like, yeah, right, yeah, sure. I'm like, guys, you want to?
It was
back
cool
for
because
this?
you hadn't seen a Gila in what? It was a while you
16
said you hadn't
years.
seen one.
Yep.
That's a long time.
Yeah,
that is a long time.
I need to make it a little shorter for the next one, but I'm thinking
Let's
this
do it
year is
this
going to
year.
be a good year. It's looking a lot of water coming down, so hopefully that'll
I
make
hope
for a better
so.
herp year. Yeah, last year was terrible. Although
Last
I did
3
get
years have been terrible.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna chat about sharing herping spots, so we'll dive into that here soon. But yeah, what's going on new? What do you got going, Chuck?
Oh boy. I mean, I started a new job this week.
Congrats.
So that's good. I'm now in the environmental office at the same place I was. So I picked up a physical scientist position in the environmental office. So that's kind of cool. Just letting me, work in my degree a little bit. So stat sig there. So you know how a new job and figuring everything out and all the newness of it. I'm running around being like, I'm new and I don't know what to do. So that's been fun. And like I said, I mentioned I just got my rodent order in for the year. Rodents have been crazy expensive, so I put in an online order and got like $700 worth of rodents. Just rats. I haven't even bought mice, so that'll be for another
10 of them.
Yeah, like 10 exactly. Yeah. So no, it's like 200. I got 200, so 100 each. So plenty of food for the Tracier and all the carpets. So everyone should be fat and happy. Looks like the outdoor coastal females gravid again. So that's good. Don't know where the diamonds are. It's been rainy and crappy here, so they're just. You leave them out? I've left them out. Yeah, it's nice. Not terribly cold. I mean, it's hit some cold spells, but all in all, it hasn't been
with the rain.
Yeah, so I think
hot and rainy.
I think situationally, I think when they get multiple days in a row where it's cool and they get the weather event, they may be ducking out. But yeah, doesn't seem like every time. So I'm just kind of waiting for it to warm up. I want to start getting food into them again as their season's going to start here shortly. So hopefully this is our last kind of big major rain event here in Southern California. So we'll see. I mean, it can kind of push into, but it's bloom season out here. So Anza Borrego's going off for flowers and stuff. So
that's what so we're going down for spring break. We're going to go down to Southern California. So they were talking about catching the super bloom. We're trying to figure out the best place to go, and I'm trying to talk them into going to the San Diego Zoo. So
it should be mega. I mean, it should be mega this year. We've had so much rain, and it's been good for our reservoirs and our drought. But the bloom will be fantastic. So
hopefully
you got to get out there. If you head out there, let me know. I'll try to meet you guys out there. It'd be fun
that'd be really cool.
To say hi.
Anyway, yeah,
for sure.
I don't know how much of a drive it is from Treg and Jenny's, but
it's a little trek. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure your kids are much more interested in the beach than they are after a Utah winter. They're probably interested in the beach more than.
Well, they found out they're probably not going to swim in it because it's 57 degrees.
It's not.
That's going to be a little chilly.
Yeah.
We did jump into the Mediterranean. It was about that temperature.
Yeah.
So I just got back from France from a trip for work. So I had a viral conference. I actually presented on snake viruses. So we talked about serpentoviruses, nidoviruses, as they used to be called. We got some funding from one of the, I think it was the Southeast Carpet Fest. They did a fundraiser and raised several $1,000s for nidovirus research. So we used those funds to do some screening for different antiviral agents and identified 3 that had pretty good activity and that are commercially available. So we're actually publishing on that, and the paper should come out in another month or 2. So we'll distribute that to anybody interested, and hopefully take the next steps beyond that, and maybe try some of these antivirals in an animal model, and hopefully find a treatment for nidovirus. That's
awesome,
fantastic.
Yeah. So you got to have some croissants and talk nidovirus over some croissants and.
I didn't do much talking about the poster because this. So with the poster session, the poster boards were accordioned, and so my poster was kind of facing another poster, and then the other guy stood there for the full 4 full hours of the 2 different poster sessions. So I had no chance to stand by the poster and see if anybody wanted to talk about it. So I talked to a couple people, had to kind of like move him over and show him the poster.
You got to get a buddy to like call, text him, and like, hey, meet me. Like get him out of there for a while.
He was new, so I'd never seen him or met him before. But yeah,
see, it's us new guys that don't know what to do. We just fuck it all up.
They don't know what they're doing.
That's us. That's us.
But yeah, it was cool. So on the front end of the trip, we went down to south of France, and like I said, jumped in the Mediterranean. We did this hike to the Calanques. It was really a cool little hike that Heidi found, and then we stayed in the Palace of the Popes, like this outbuilding. So it's like this little It was pretty cool, like pretty original architecture and stuff in there. With some, new modifications.
Of course.
Really a cool place to stay. And then went down to Nice, and then came back and hit the Roman Aqueduct. That was pretty amazing. Huge structure that ran this river basically across a canyon. So pretty ingenious, those Romans. And then headed up to Lyon, where the conference was, and then after the conference we went up to Chamonix in the Alps. went up a gondola up in like about 12,600 feet.
Are they as scary as they look?
They're imposing, man. Those things are pretty insane. And then walking upstairs at 12,500 feet,
trying to get your air.
You're all dizzy and like, is this thing swaying? Like, am I gonna pass out? Like, it's pretty nuts. Yeah, low altitude fun. But and then Mount Blanc is right there, and that's the highest point in Europe at like 15,000 feet. So pretty cool. But just majestic, and got found a species of reptile species or 2. Well, those were invasive. There were some turtles, like of course the obligatory red ear sliders, and there was a map turtle or something out there. I need to identify it. I don't know my turtles as well as I should, but. And then a wall lizard was climbing around on some Roman ruins in Lyon. So got to see at least a couple little herps. But then I got 49 bird species, so that worked.
Is that the green Italian wall lizard?
I think it was I wasn't. I looked it up and then I promptly forgot. But I think it was a common wall lizard, but I'm not. I can't remember. For sure.
We, me and Aspen and another friend were herping in Southern California, and there's this one little neighborhood you can find Italian wall lizards in. It'd be funny if it was the same species.
Yeah, right.
They're all over. They're running around in people's front yards. So we're parked in a neighborhood, photographing these people's bushes, and they're coming out all wigged out. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, we're here. Oh, you're here looking for these lizards? We go, yeah. And they're like, okay, you're good. All over the place.
That must totally happen to them too. Like they're like,
they knew
you're
what
just
we were,
looking for the. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And where was that? You said
Southern California.
What area was that? Do you remember?
No, we don't give away herp spots, Aspen.
Right.
That's right. You're gonna be
there. You go, showing me up.
Yeah, it was the common wall lizard, Podarcus muralis.
Yeah.
Muralis.
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's the kind. Nice.
I think that's yeah.
Yeah, we saw 4 or 5, so that was kind of cool. My grad student spotted the first one, so I didn't even spot the first one. She's like, "Hey, there's a lizard crawling." I'm like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah, I'll give you a hint that you can find them in Southern California and on the East Coast at the larger ports where they come in and bring in like product and stuff from across the sea, and they've hitched rides and now they've made it onto American soil. So little terrorist lizards coming to take over.
Terrorist lizards.
Terrorist lizards.
Taking over the front yards of these poor unsuspecting people. Yeah, they were pretty cool looking. It had some neat pattern. So my camera stopped transferring pictures to my phone, so now I got to get them off my computer. And
You tell me you got to do it manually for
yeah,
once?
it's ridiculous. I mean, it's like I might as well just be developing film or something.
Oh my god!
Dipping it and hanging it up.
It's torturous. Yeah,
Break out the dark room again.
I'm old enough that I had to, pay lots of money to get pictures developed, only to go, what the crap is this? I thought that was going to be a much better picture. Yeah, good times. I came home to black-headed python eggs. My female laid
Did you
the day
really?
I got back, right on my birthday. So that was a
That's
nice
awesome.
birthday present there. She laid 8 good eggs, and I promptly, most likely, screwed them up. So that was a good way to
Are they
celebrate.
still going?
They're still going. They haven't gone off yet. So
They
hopefully-
nothing.
You're doing all right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
We are
Well,
going to practice the power of positive thought.
There we go.
Justin.
There we go. Yeah. So I threw in some of those Govee temperature monitors. So
Nice.
hopefully we can get. a
Are
nice
they
temperature
just
from that.
rando in the? Are they just like rando in the box, or are they like down in the egg mass?
They're just next to the egg mass. I mean,
Gotcha.
So I set them up based on some advice from my buddy Steve out in Australia. Shout out to Steve, who does the Aussie Wildlife Show podcast. Some good stuff. But he sets them up like with 30% water to like incubation medium by weight. So we usually do like a 1-to-1, or I was thinking, I'll do it drier. They're blackheads, so I did like 9-to-1 or 8-to-1 or something. He's doing 3-to-1, or 0.3-to-1. Sorry.
There you
so
go.
30% water. Yeah, I'm not making much sense here, but so a lot drier than I would have expected. But that's how he's hatched them out, and he doesn't have any problems. So I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me.
And
So-
this is the Steve that lives in the driest county and the driest place of
Exactly.
the driest dry in all of Australia,
Yeah,
right?
because I was like, but it's really dry here. And he's like, it's really dry here. It's like, I'm in South Australia. No. Yeah, so should hopefully work out. But it's, looking good. The temp got a little high there at the start because I turned on the heater and walked away and forgot about it. So I'm a genius, It's it's one of
They'll
these
pull
days
through
I-
this time. You got
Yeah,
this.
I sure
Yep.
hope so.
Power of positive thought,
That's
Drew
right.
Linder.
Yeah.
Yep.
But my, I had like I've got here's, you can see it there, the thermostat, and then I've got a little thermometer sticking in the incubator side, and then, but the thermometer was reading low, so I bumped up but now these Govies are saying it's a little high, so it's like, up just over 90 or 89.
I had to do a sensor adjustment on my Govies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean they were all reading within 3 degrees of difference of each other. So
These have been pretty close. I put one outside the box and one inside the box, so I could look at the general temps in the incubator. But I had them backwards though, so I was like, "Oh no, it's a little, little hot." But then it was just the incubator, so by the eggs was all right.
is that a Ranco thermostat you've got there? Or
I noticed
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah, that's a Renko.
those things? Well, I've got.
Pretty solid.
Oh yeah, I've got a Johnson. I think they're A419s or something like that, and the thing's just it's a freaking tank. So
Yeah, they keep going. So
yeah.
Can't say as much for my what are the thermostats I bought.
Yeah, the spider robotic stuff.
Yeah,
I don't get it, man. It's just you.
Because
It's just you.
I bought one too, and it's acting up too. So I don't know
What the
deal is.
hell? I have had nothing
some
but
hard
good
on.
luck with those things.
Really? Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
It's good to be home again. Only to turn around and leave again. My kids want to go down to California to see the ocean. So.
hey, man, all the cool kids are doing it.
Oh yeah. That's why it costs so much down there.
That's right.
Everybody wants to be
That's right.
cool.
Well, everyone's leaving now and making it cost so much everywhere else.
Yeah, they keep coming here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. We're
That's
we're,
for sure.
We're seeding the nation with our malcontent
Slowly
Californians.
spreading.
Yes.
Yeah, that's become
Yes.
the red
All
state
of the
pastime
all of
is
the
to
left
complain
lanes
about-
of your freeways will be occupied with California Tesla drivers that ain't moving for shit, dude.
Hey,
Took a
they
page
already
right
do
out of
that
Kitchen.
here.
Oh
That
my
was-
God.
That was actually the most refreshing thing of France is everybody gets out of the way. Nobody is clogging the passing lane. It's a beautiful system.
Well, I've ridden
When
with
it
you,
works.
so that's fair. And Keith McPeak will not ride with you, so those Frenchies know what's good for them. That's
well,
all.
no,
it
they
is.
were like you
They
knew
were
it if
passing
somebody
you?
was coming up, you got out of the way, or else they're
Ah.
crawling up over you. You know, they were pretty intense drivers.
You were the. I see.
But everybody
I'm
got
sorry,
out of the
I had
way.
it
So
wrong.
I did get nabbed by a camera trap. That was kind of a bummer.
Oh, boy.
Like I see everybody hitting their brakes, and I'm like, oh, I didn't see a cop or anything. And then I see this sign. I can't read French, so I didn't know what it said. But I saw the little like
Sacre
texture.
bleu!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So are you just not going to pay it, and you're just going to be a felon the next time you enter
Right,
the
just
country?
stay out of France. I don't need to go back.
You just blew your whole France ticket.
Well, the rental company charged me $25 just because I got one, and then they said that the cops would, or they'd send me the bill, but I haven't seen the bill yet, so hopefully it's not too painful. I didn't think I was going that fast, but yeah,
Famous.
You'll have
last
late
words.
fees by the time it gets to you.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no doubt.
Did you say
yeah.
that you also scared Keith McPeak with your driving?
Oh, you scared Keith
So-
McPeak too?
Yeah, so when he came out to Utah this last time, we went up to Zion's National Park, and we were coming down one of the winding roads, and they
That's
wanted to
what
get
it
some
does.
pictures.
Yeah.
And so I heard him pulled off right on the edge, and admittedly, the edge was like a 150-foot cliff off the one side, and Keith's like, "You're nuts," or "You're crazy," or something like that, and I was like, I'm just driving how I'd normally drive, but yeah, I think I gave him a little spook too, so
Yeah.
maybe us Utah drivers are maybe
think
we're
so.
to blame.
Yeah,
Rob
Ryan
was with
Young-
us, and I don't think he was too happy with the way I was driving either when we were road cruising. So
Rob Stone said that he, no, it wasn't Rob. It was Ryan Young said he about got run off the road in Utah when he was driving through. I'm
might have been one of us.
like, yeah, it could have been. Out of my way, slowpoke. But
Well,
yeah. we were
apparently, when you ride with Keith, he's going to be McFreakin.
Freaking.
Yeah.
when he's McPeaking over the
When he's
cliff.
McPeaking over the edge, he starts McFreaking.
Another Chuckism. More Chuck Gold.
It's too easy with Keith, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Keith's a good. Yeah, I'm excited to see Keith again. We're going to be hanging out with him in the fall for the Carpet Fest.
Yep.
That'll be
Yep.
good.
Yep, stoked for that.
Yeah.
You guys are going as well?
Absolutely.
Nice.
We're
Nice.
the plan right now is actually we're going to be staying with Keith
Yeah.
and doing a little herping while we're there too. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll have
You
to
guys
join
will have fun.
forces. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
yeah,
That cat has no tail.
Get out of here.
yeah,
She's
cut
a
it
mouse.
My cat has no fur. Your cat has no tail. All right, well, you guys ready to fight a little? Let's have you.
When are we not ready?
Yeah.
I've got my
yeah,
notes.
You guys are fighting a lot. That's what I thought. You guys. Are
You
just
have
ready
my
to have
notes.
fun.
Ah.
So I was getting off work, and he came to my house to wait for me. And just snooping around, he found my notes and took pictures. So I can't trust anything he says now.
Oh man, so that's some good espionage.
Yep, I've got it. I prepared lots of my own notes too. Right now.
So now you got both sides. Yeah. All right. Well, let's have you guys introduce yourselves. Kind of say where you fit into herpetoculture, and you know why it's important to you, and we'll get some fighting going. Who wants to start?
Go ahead, Aspen.
Oh, of
You go
course.
first.
All right. I guess I'm Aspen Mahan, as was previously introduced. I don't know if I'd fit into herpetoculture any more than the next guy. I'm just another keeper and herper. Nothing super special. So
He's a fellow Tracy keeper there.
and that is true. I do keep a pair of Tracy. Yeah.
I
A pair?
like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Hope fingers crossed in the next year or two they're ready to go. So
Nice.
yeah.
How long you had him?
Shoot, the female I've had. How long have I had her now, Chris? Like 2 years?
2 and a half, 3 years.
2.5, 3 years now at least, yeah. And then the male I got just last year, so I've had him a little over. Well, was it? Yeah, a little over a year, I think. I've had him,
Nice.
so they're solid.
Yeah.
I love them.
They're cool, man. They're super cool.
They're so much better than any other scrub. I don't know what it is about them, but they're better.
You don't really kind of like once you get them in, you get them kind of established, and they start to get out of that really ugly wild caught look. You're just like, holy shit, these things.
Once they shed that jungle skin, they glow.
It is. You're like, man, they're fucking brown, but they're the coolest brown scrub python I've ever seen. So
they really
nice.
are.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Well, if I can help in any way, or let me know.
I consider myself in the presence of a god at this point. So
Shut up.
the Grandmaster.
You're gonna regret offering that help.
If I don't get eggs this year, you may rescind that offer. Be like, you're a hack, Poland.
I'll keep a pin in it.
You're sitting on an army, though, so I think you're going to be all right.
Hope so.
Always
We'll
that
see.
first generation. I mean, captive bred always do better, too. So, Are either of yours captive bred, Aspen? Or are they?
No, both are wild caught imports, so not a whole lot of those floating around.
They
So.
were
Some a
pretty
little
young
younger,
when they
or-
came in, or
The male was probably at least a year old. He was a bit bigger. The female was young. The female was pretty young when I got her. The male was older.
nice.
So.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing this stuff?
Same answer as most guys. As long as I was able to walk, I've been picking up snakes and sticking them in my pocket. So
Perfect.
I've been in the hobby keeping since probably 2015, I guess, technically.
Okay.
So
Cool. All right, Chris, how about you?
Kind of the same, similar answer as Aspen's. I mean, I at one point had a relatively large collection of the short-tail species, but due to some life circumstances, I had to sell off those and kind of took a hiatus for a little bit. And then I never took a hiatus from herping since I started. That's an addiction you can't really set down. But just here in the last year or so, I started keeping again, but I wanted to just try new things. So I've picked up a pair of Brettles pythons and have some various geckos, a kukri snake, and a hog island boa, and thoroughly enjoying those. And kind of with the short tails, it was all racks and tubs, and with this stuff, I'm trying to, for the most part, do more naturalistic enclosures. So trying to learn about plants and stuff, but mostly killing them. But plants are... I don't have a green thumb, but thankfully my girlfriend's better with that stuff than me.
Sadly, killing plants is the best way to learn. It really
true.
is.
I'm sure.
I'm a plant guy, and I cannot even tell you how many plants I've killed in the pursuit of learning to be a plant guy. So,
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear. I'm glad that.
yeah.
I'm glad that.
I don't know if that's reassuring, but it's kind of the truth.
I just like that when I kill off certain things, there's always the good old trusty pothos to fall back on that you can't kill. So
Oh, I have. I had some in my frog cage, and it didn't last. I think I forgot to water it or something. I need to. Yeah. All right. Well, so I've witnessed a few of your back and forths, so I think we're in for a treat here. This should be fun. But,
we'll try to keep it contained for you.
Yeah, you guys have done some pretty awesome herp trips, and that was kind of how you guys came to my attention, because I saw some of your posts on some of the groups, and I started following you and kind of watching, seeing the stuff you were finding. You guys did some pretty amazing herping down there. I mean, it helps to be in a good spot for herping.
When you can go day to day, it definitely helps.
Yeah, for sure. So
makes it easy.
But then you guys put in the time too. So you were out there hitting the streets, hitting the hills just about every day. It seemed like you were always finding something cool. So I got like I said before, I got the pleasure of herping with you guys and kind of getting to know you a little better, and that was a lot of fun. So thanks for coming on. Let's we're going to talk about sharing herp spots, whether or not that's a good idea, or kind of the pros and cons of sharing herp spots. because most herpers are pretty tight-lipped, but I was talking to, Chuck and I were actually talking to Jordan Parrott, and he showed us a bunch of herp spots, and he's like, look, this stuff's getting paved over faster than we can do much about it, so maybe people should enjoy it before it's gone kind of attitude about it. So I thought, that'd be a great topic. And then when you guys said you might want to come on and have a little fight here, I thought that'd be a good topic for you guys, because you both herp quite a bit, both been around the country a bit and maybe around the world a little as well. So I thought that was a fitting topic. But let's go ahead and flip the coin. Who wants to call it?
I'll take heads. Give me
right.
heads.
Oh, we got tails. I'm sorry, man.
My luck.
So Chris gets to pick what side of the topic he's on. I think we might know what that might be.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I feel like he may have played his hand a little earlier on in this.
I'll go ahead and take the side of not sharing herp spots.
Okay.
As would be expected.
Yeah. All right, and then as the flip winner, you also get to decide if you go first or if Aspen leads us out.
Oh. Aspen, go ahead. I like when Aspen goes
right.
first.
Yeah, because I stumble and then you just pick up the crumbs I dropped.
Or the whole pie.
As Justin kind of first stated that we know that urban sprawl is kind of taken over and we're losing a lot of good spots, and I'm sure Chuck knows, being in Southern California, that a new Walmart pops up everywhere. I mean, we were down there herping 2 years ago now. 2 years ago we were herping, and you're in the back of a Walmart flipping a board looking for these snakes that may not be there come next year. So I think that's a really important topic to start with, as well as just the hobby in general. It's always good to embrace future generations. If we're closed-minded and we don't open up to new herpers when they want to learn, when they genuinely want to figure out how to get into this hobby in a good spot to start with, if we're not up front and helping them out, who's gonna carry on the herping legacy once we're gone? So I guess that would be my opening.
Yeah, I would echo that. Like some of the new herp guys that are coming in, I guess, the more obvious ones are the ones who have the popular YouTube channels, like Noah Fields and what's the Catch It guy's name? Do you see his stuff? But both pretty young guys. But I mean, the Catch It guy, he just went over to the Galapagos and he's filming his herping and adventures over in the Galapagos, which is pretty cool because I haven't made it over there, and I'm hoping to at some point in my life. But to live vicariously and see some nice footage of some of the animals is pretty cool. So.
I've been to the Galapagos.
Have you? No,
well, not really. I was on the boat. It was in the Navy.
I touched the water.
There's the Galapagos Islands as we sailed by. So that was.
You didn't jump overboard and
the
swim
biggest tease of your life. But anyway, I seen them. Horrible, right?
But yeah, some of these new guys coming up, if they maybe had a rough start or didn't have a good experience, maybe they wouldn't have done these things. And I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess Chris can respond.
Yes.
To
What say you,
Aspen's
Chris?
first.
What say you, sir?
Well, so I think there's pretty much no validity to anything Aspen says. Just to start off.
Ooh,
Coming out swinging.
But yeah, so he said, "Oh, we're losing these areas to cities and really just places being overrun by construction and stuff like that, which in turn means there is less areas to herp. So if you show everyone these rapidly declining areas, then that habitat only gets destroyed further by herpers going and flipping rocks and not knowing proper etiquette or just not caring. And is to go along with that, we live in a world of instant gratification. They just want everything handed to them on a silver platter. They want it easy. And so there are a lot of new and upcoming herpers, and I think they, like anybody, deserve to be able to go out and herp and enjoy it. But you can teach proper herping etiquette and essentially help them to be a better herper without showing specific locations where they may have to kind of put in some of the footwork themselves, have some of that type 2 fun to find their own spots, find their own new areas, and then I think in turn they get more out of it. It's when you're not just handed something, you have to kind of work for it and earn it. It's more rewarding in the long run.
It's true, yeah. I guess if they have staying power, they're going to stay in it whether or not they find a bunch of stuff right off the bat, or if it's really a passion for them, Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you to the point where they get more out of it. There's always that reward. I think we all can agree with that when you've done the research, you found a spot that you think is going to be good, but you have no clue because you found it on Google Earth, and you go there and you find that target. There's not many feelings better than that. I definitely have to agree with you there. But along with losing habitat, you kind of brought up that you got that smirk on your face. You kind of brought up that it doesn't necessarily. It definitely matters with proper herping etiquette when it comes to flipping rocks or logs, especially when it comes to like more dry environments like southern Utah. Reptiles do rely on that microhabitat for sure. But really, if you think about it, the reptiles didn't just up and move to South America to find a new microhabitat. They simply went and became less detectable in that same area. Most reptiles don't have a real wide-ranging area. They'll simply go down deeper underground to find that moisture level. So they may not be detectable for another year or two until that microhabitat under those rocks and logs reestablish. And I am in no way justifying that it's okay to flip rocks or logs without replacing them, without doing it properly. But I think there is a proper way to do that and teach people and still retain that microhabitat. And along with the same habitat argument, you got to think about not just necessarily in the U.S. or just with common species, but with more endangered species, and perhaps sharing those locations and getting the word out that these endangered species may be there could potentially garner more attention and garner more protection for that land. And they might be able to set up some sort of area of protection, or maybe we may even be able to police ourselves a little bit better, knowing that there are protected species in that said area.
Or be policed better.
Correct, policed better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than to go into an area and see like cap rocks flipped and stuff like that. We went into an area in Western Australia. We were looking for wheat belt Stimsons, and their habitat was just torn up from poachers trying to go in and get a quick buck by collecting these popular snakes. And so it really sucks. And then it makes it harder to herp that area. You have to go further in or find a new spot or whatever, and it's just not cool. Yeah. So,
well, do you remember that night we went with Dustin, and there was that group that was they literally got there just in front of us, and I swear we walked right behind them, and they were like a herp group, and they didn't replace any of the shit that they overturned.
I don't know if it was them. I think it might have been.
That's fair. You're right.
I think Dustin said that he'd seen some, because all the boards were not in the right spot. They weren't put back. And
that's always a bummer when you show up to an area and it's been torn apart, especially that soon after that. And that's where I think policing ourselves better comes in play, and maybe even taking new people that may not even know what they're doing and teaching them how to do that.
Yeah, and I definitely think that there's an onus on people, experienced field herpers to teach people how to be good stewards of those areas. Because, honestly, you have stuff like iNaturalist, right? Like, it's out there for everybody,
some things are obscured, but for the most part, you can kind of figure out.
Well, even along the obscured stuff, if you look like at the California garters, the red-sided garters in California, half the records are in the ocean.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
and you only have such a big square area that you can find those records in, so it narrows it down pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Aspen's doing a really good job so far of arguing my points for me, and I'm enjoying this.
I do that for Justin sometimes.
Yeah. No, I think another part to it too that we brought up that there's habitat destruction due to construction and just humans encroaching on wild areas, but to that same argument, I'm sure even Justin, you're even probably aware of it. You herp Utah enough, but there's a certain canyon or a certain area where a lot of people go to find Utah mountain king snakes, and it became very popular. A lot of people found out about it, and there's a very specific area you can stop and go and flip capstones. And for a while, you could go there and pretty much for sure find one. And then one day, someone went up and took some photos of the same rock outcrop where you could find them, and the rocks were just. The whole rock formation was just torn apart. Rocks were on the ground, and I think after that, people don't find them there like they used to. They've had to move on to different areas where they can find better habitat again, and it kind of ruins it for the people that did put in the work, who did find that place, that liked to frequent it and knew to respect the area. And because it was overshared, that habitat destruction came about because of the herpers themselves.
Yeah, that's like I said, that's the most frustrating thing. But I wonder too, sometimes, places get herped out, but at the same time, as time goes on, people kind of forget about it, or they think, oh, it's all fished out, and so people stop going there, and eventually it might restore it. I went with Brian Eager, and we went out to try to find this den out in Grantsville area that had been like a historical spot, where they'd done a lot of publications, a lot of studies out there. But the locals would go out there to kill rattlesnakes because it was like a great spot for rattlesnakes, because they're all, there's a hibernacula out there. And we actually found the den that they were publishing on it back in the 50s or 60s or whatever, and found that spot. And I mean, we flipped probably 30 yellow-bellied racers in one afternoon. They were like the first ones to emerge. It was a little earlier in the spring kind of scenario, but and Brian actually went back, and I think he got a publication in Herp Review going back with some of the original researchers that published on that area. So that was kind of cool. But I think sometimes is it a good thing to have some spots where everybody knows to go, and so people just go there, and you kind of avoid having them discover new places. I guess I kind of liken it to the canyoneering folks. They would set up routes that were for everybody to use, but then they'd have their secret routes where they could do that. Is there a place where you can have both, spots where you tell people about, but then you also have your kind of quiet spots that you
wanker sites.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's species dependent in that one. It depends on what the range is and how sensitive that species is. For example, I can only imagine you're only talking about Great Basin rattlesnakes, which aren't a lot of people really like them and will travel far to come and see them, but I don't know if I'd exactly call them sensitive or rare, or that their habitat range is really restricted to a very specific microhabitat or anything. They tend to do quite well across their range where they're found. Whereas, take Price Eye, for example, the twin spot rattlesnake. If you had everyone and their dogs going to find those, I mean, they've actually restricted some areas. You can't even go there because they're trying to protect the species now. So some of the best habitat you used to be able to go and look for them, now you're not supposed to go there at all because it was getting overworked and the species was getting harassed and illegally collected since they're protected. But so species dependent.
I agree 100% when it comes to species dependent on that. Here in southern Utah, we're pretty tight-lipped about spots where we found to be very good for Gila monsters, just for that fact that not only are we concerned that this few that are in that area might be collected, but it's a sensitive species as well, in that they are known to change burrows entirely, or at least attempt to, if they feel like their winter den or the area that they've selected to hide in is no longer secure. If someone's been bothering them and taking pictures of them every single day, they've been known to move and attempt to find a new burrow. And if that happens in June, it might not find a new burrow. So I would definitely hand that towards Chris, in that depending on the species, yes, I think some discretion is perfectly warranted.
Even with
But everybody deserves that photo, right, Aspen? Everyone should get a photo of a Gila. They don't need to put in the work. Everyone should just get to go photograph them.
I just read.
Justin got one.
I just read about that.
Yes.
Some photographers that were chasing down a barn owl out in like the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge, and like they were trying to get pictures of it flying, so they kept like scaring it up out of the grass and making it fly, and eventually the owl just died. Like it just rolled on them. Because they harassed it so much, and it's like people don't have respect for the animal. They just want to get their pictures, and so that can be, not the best situation.
Wankus.
I imagine it's similar to the Gila situation, but that speaking of that big group that rolled through the area. So we were driving to this specific spot. I think it's fairly well known, but it still is pretty productive, and so. We were driving in the dark, and we went to turn on to the turnoff to go down to this canyon, and all of a sudden these two big vans turned in front of us.
It's like a caravan. Yeah. It wasn't like two big vans. It was like a fucking caravan.
and we're like, oh great, maybe they're just hopefully they're just camping down here or something. No, they went right to the spot, parked, and all these guys get out with their snake hooks, and somebody's leading a tour to that spot, so it's not exactly secret. And this is the spot where they weren't replacing the boards, so obviously somebody's going in there and just flipping boards and not caring about putting them back where they need to go. But we actually found I
was gonna say they didn't find shit, but we did after they left.
Well, it just shows who were the better herpers.
That's what we said.
We had a club, and they were like, they didn't even realize we were standing around, photographing something, and we were kind of playing it cool, like wait till they leave or wait till they go.
We've been there, haven't we, Chris?
Yeah. So, and spots like that, like I said, they're still productive, and you still find stuff there, So I don't know.
I'll show someone how to find an American bullfrog any day they want.
Yeah,
red-eared slider, any day you want. Hit me up. I'll show you where to find them.
I want to know where to find those soft shells down there in St. George.
Yeah,
you see those very often.
Is that
come to the wastewater plant?
Yeah.
Is that an everybody's got to start somewhere reptile?
Well, those are invasive species.
Right, I get it.
Yes.
They're actually fairly difficult.
Listen, Julinder, don't screw with my comedic humor.
So, just a quick deviation. When me and Chris were trying to find our first one, we knew exactly where they were. Thank you to INAT, basically, and word of mouth. And we had gone maybe 3 or 4 times trying to photograph them at this certain pond. And we couldn't find them. We thought we saw them out in the middle of the pond, but we didn't have good lenses, couldn't see them. And we show up one day, and there's this little old lady, and she's throwing bread to the ducks. And 2 of these softshell turtles just float up and swim right out and start munching on the bread. And we're like, that's all it took? A little bit of bread.
All right. I'm going to go feed the turtles next time.
Now you know.
You were like, thanks, old lady. You're awesome.
We told her, like, oh, this is what we were looking for. So,
you never learn a herping trick from a nice old lady.
Little old lady feeding ducks. Yeah. Right along with INAT, though, an argument could be made that INAT gives out the majority of the quote-unquote good locations already. Even when they're obscured, once you get a cluster, it gives you that area. And from there, if you're any good at researching, you can usually hone in on that spot fairly quickly. So I feel like the argument could be made that even if you don't share the spots, by sharing your records on iNaturalist is sharing your spots.
So, have you ever posted anything on iNat, Chris?
Go ahead, answer the question, Chris.
I've seen a lot of side watch lizards from
iNat. iNat is an awesome resource, and it is really, I'll be the first to admit, it's a great place to go if you want to research a species. But I think, again, for me, that is part of it. I think everyone deserves to be able to go and go out and herp and try and find different species. But I would argue that doing the research on your own, even if that means pulling up an app like iNaturalist, learning the name, because you have to at least have a start. Like if you're like, oh, I want to look up sidewinders, you got to be able to look in there. And if you're looking for sidewinders in South America, you're probably not going to be super lucky. But you have to put in that research to at least get yourself into the right area. And after that, I mean, sure, it's a resource just as much as a range map in a book or going online. And I think that does play back to the herpers have to have a certain level of etiquette in how they go about herping. If they are going to put records into a database, they, in my opinion, should, for those more sensitive species, either mark them private or at the very least obscured, rather than giving the exact GPS coordinate for anybody to go in and just find.
Yeah, some are automatically obscured, right? Like if it's a certain...
Yep.
I know desert tortoises...
Any protected or... I think even threatened species might be obscured.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one nice thing. I think... I know, I mean, it is hard work to try to find new spots, you know, but it definitely, like you said, it's more rewarding when you actually do find them, when you've done your own research and kind of hit a new area where they're not really known from. And I guess with iNaturalist that gets a little harder, but, you know, I think, you know, that's how we wind up with range extensions or things. People go, I wonder if they're here, you know, this is similar habitat and to where they're found elsewhere, so... I know a bunch of the Utah herpers will go out and find new, you know, milk snake localities and stuff, which is exciting.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No.
Oh, I was just going to make another point of essentially I'd like to think we've all been given locations at some point or another, especially when you're researching a new area. And again, research comes with the hobby, comes with going out and finding these spots. At least I know I have. I've reached out to people I know that live in that area and not necessarily asked for spots, but just general advice. And usually, people are pretty open when they can see that they know you're trying, they know if they know you, they're usually willing to give you at least a spot or some information leading to a spot. I guess my question would be, at what point do you trust that person to give them location? Because I feel like we've all been given spots before to areas that were fairly difficult to herp.
Yeah, that is helpful. I mean, yeah, that's nice to be entrusted with something, and you know, hopefully you can earn that trust or respect, you know, and not share it. I guess that's kind of goes along with the herper etiquette. If somebody does show you a spot, you know, that's theirs to give, not yours to give on. But I think a lot of people just get excited and they want to make it look like they're the experts or they know what they're doing, and so then they share it further because they're trying to show off. So
yeah,
that's a hard thing to get around human nature.
No, and I do think that's another aspect we haven't touched on. That is a really difficult part of herping is not everyone herps for the same reasons. Mm-hmm. Some people herp just purely for the love of the reptiles. They just want to go. They want to see it in the wild. They want to learn about it, take pictures of it, and that's all that they really care about. That's what they want to do. But on that flip side, you also have people that all that they want to do is go out and collect those animals. They want to find them, capture them, take them home, and put them in a box, and that's their new pet. And that is a difficult thing, because I had a time where I went out with a friend, and I'm going to keep this as obscure as I can. I went out with a friend looking for a species that I had never seen in the wild before. And this friend that I went with is really good at finding the species. So I was just excited to go out with him. And out of the blue, he invited another friend that I didn't know was coming. And so we all split up, and we're going on this hike looking for it. We're all within earshot for the most part, but not right next to each other. And all of a sudden, as the day goes on, this one friend of his comes running up to us and pulls this reptile out of a bag in his backpack. He's like, "Guys, I found it. Look, here it is. Like, you can take your picture now." Which for me totally defeated the purpose. Like, I want to be, I don't have to be the one to spot it, but I don't want you to come running a half mile up the trail to me to pull it out of a bag. Yeah. And then he just went from there to put it back in his bag, and he took it home, and who knows whatever happened with it. And so for someone that's just out there to enjoy nature and enjoy the reptiles in their habitats, it's always a bummer when you know that some of these areas that maybe these reptiles aren't as easy to find in, or their habitat's more specific and isn't as common there, that people are collecting them out of the wild and limiting your chances to see them is always a bummer.
For sure, yeah. Some of those spots where they used to be really, like you were saying with the mountain, they used to be really easy to find there, and then all of a sudden you can never find them again because they've been over collected. Our buddy Dustin Grahn, he has some locality animals, and he's bred them, and he's gonna hatch out the eggs and take them back and release them kind of in that same area where he found them, so he can help or at least put back what they would have maybe contributed to that area. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
If you're gonna Chris, if you're gonna collect them, be responsible, I guess.
I want you to know I hate you for making me argue this point, Chris. I'm going to do the best I can here.
If you want me to argue it for you, I can, because I can think of some good points for it, but I'd rather watch you struggle.
No, I'm sure you already read my points.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, those are my notes.
When you look at collecting, I'm sure there are certain areas that have been hit hard, yes. Mainly those most common spots, the spots on iNaturalist, the spots that, like you said, the huge group rolls through with 13 guys and they all have a bag and a hook in hand. I'm sure those spots get hit hard. But in a lot of these areas, human development isn't far away, which means roads. And how many times have we road cruise DORs at night? And we get 13 DORs and a single live snake. So it makes you wonder, obviously when you take a snake out of that wild, that snake is dead to the wild. It would have been just as good as if it got run over or you put it in your pocket. So really, how many people out there are putting snakes in their pocket and taking them home versus the number that are getting hit by cars every night or eaten by hawks and coyotes? I would argue that a fair number more fall victim to cars and natural predation versus being collected. Granted, there are some areas that definitely suffer due to overcollection. Like you said with Price Eye. That's definitely a big threat to areas like that.
Well, and then Aspen, you probably know even the name of the species. I can't remember it off the top of my head, so maybe you'll help my argument and remind me of the name. But me and one of our mutual friends, Joey Mugelston, were recently talking about a species of monitor lizard that it's an island species, and it can no longer be found on this island because it was over-collected to the point that they now no longer exist on the island. They were collected to extinction in their range. I can't remember the name of the species, but you can find them in captivity, which is great. but you can't see them in their wild habitat anymore.
I can't think of the species off the top of my head.
You're
I'm not
useless.
sure what you're talking about.
I do wonder though, because like functional extinction versus true extinction, because it seems like there's all these animals that go functionally extinct, and then 10 years down the line they find some, and I wonder if that's kind of like Aspen's point of like, when you disturb a microhabitat, that animal just goes deeper underground or finds, or maybe they're just going to places where, and this is something that made me think of it, is when Justin and I were herping with Jordan Parrott, we did a lot of road cruising, but you just can't be up in those mountains and not look at all of that habitat that is so far from a road and so far from any person. And if they're crossing the road, they're out there in those mountains where there's absolutely nobody. So what is that true population number look like? You know what I mean? And I think you take like the whole wild caught argument and Daniel Natusch's research of versus like what wild collection does versus habitat destruction. And so if there's still habitat, is it really? I don't know. There's a lot there, but I guess my point is we talk about that decline, but what does that really look like?
That's a good point. Offenburg, I think, is the one you're thinking of. The peacock monitor.
Sure.
I think that's what you're thinking of. I think. I could be. So someone's probably yelling through their phone right now saying I'm wrong, but I think you're talking about Offenburg.
If it helps any, I know they have some pretty blue coloration in the wild due to something they eat, and then in captivity they lose it. But yeah,
I think so.
I'm not the monitor expert here. I'll leave that to you. So
yeah, I'm definitely not. I still don't own any at the moment. I'd really agree with Chuck's point, and to kind of tack onto that, I think importation and sharing secret spots with importation is a whole different subject. With, do they really care about that species, or do they just care about keeping it secret because that's their paycheck, that's what feeds their families? And it may be different if they cared more just about that species and they maybe wanted to share it with their friends. But I do agree that there is a problem with importation sometimes and dwindling individuals. You look at like McCrae, the monitor, the blue tree monitor. They're from a very... most monitors from those chain of islands are limited to one or two islands. And you get one or two collectors that go out there to collect and import them. And the next thing you know, you're down to a handful of species that, like Chuck said, may end up going down deeper underground or hiding or trying to get away from that stress of being collected. So that's definitely a point there.
And I definitely think island species, may be an exception to that, to kind of Daniel Natusch's rule, just because their range is limited, and so they can only go so far to kind of escape any type of pressure like that.
Right.
Although, look at Biaks. Biak green tree pythons, they keep bringing those in by the bucket load. And, and they don't seem to slow down much.
What about the Kofiau Island, stuff like that? You don't see that stuff, So I think again, like some of it is like
species.
Maybe you're not capturing the specific pressure or whatever is acting on, but certainly island and mainland species, probably are separate case by case examples.
I agree for sure there.
I always thought, that would be an interesting thing to try to kind of flood the market for some of these things where they're locally abundant, but they're, I guess, functionally rare, and maybe like a shingleback, right? In Australia, they're like $100 lizard. Over here, they're a $10,000 lizard, and so there's a lot of impetus to smuggle or to try to get them out of the country, and so you wonder if they just exported, a couple hundred animals or a couple thousand animals and just flooded the market, so to say, if that would satisfy it and slow that illegal collection down, because I don't know, man. I guess there was an example where I went to an island, Rottnest Island off the coast of Western Australia, and was looking for this endemic shingleback on Rottnest Island. It's a subspecies, and we saw one, and I thought, we found one, we'll see more because they're all over this island. We didn't see any more, and then come to find out, some guy had gotten caught at the border with like 30 of them in his, underwear. Or something,
man,
that's where they all went.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
like
a
the
bummer.
week before I was there or something. So it's kind of
great reason
definitely
not to share spots.
Yeah,
Of course.
It's hard
Way to tie it all together.
Chris is like, thank you.
I think that's the problem though. Is like an island, if they a lot of people will do their research and read papers and stuff. So when an animal's described, they buy a plane ticket, go to that island, and start collecting before they have even really been described and such. So it's a problem. I don't know. I had heard that somebody was talking about that, where if they discovered a new species, they would just collect a bunch of them, breed the heck out of them, and then just flood the market at the same time that they published where they were found in the wild.
I've heard of that before.
Stop people from going there just to collect them. There would be no financial impetus to do so. So I don't know. It's a complex problem for sure.
Look at Phelsoma clemeri, neon day geckos, and I'm only going to bring this up because I really want to brag about it.
Lord.
I actually just bred them. They just hatched out today, and I'm excited about it.
Nice.
But they were discovered in, I think, 1990 in Madagascar from two tiny little endemic pockets off the west coast of Madagascar. And they imported, I think, 14 individuals. And nowadays you can find them a lot of places. They're fairly common in the hobby, and they're not expensive. So there's not really a desire to go out, fly all the way to Madagascar, and smuggle these tiny little geckos back in. But I had to bring it up because I was proud of it.
That's awesome. I remember following. So we were herping West Texas, and we kept running into the same group in all the spots we were going to, and the difference between us and them is they had a van full of buckets, and they were collecting everything they found, and so like. They got to an area right before we did and found like a rock rattlesnake, lepidus, and found a bunch of other stuff, copperhead. And the guy was actually bragging about how, he sees like 50 of them in his backyard in, East Texas, and they look exactly the same as these West Texas ones. We're like, well, what are you collecting it
Why?
for? It was like a $30 animal for him, and that's all he was looking at. It was dollar signs. I think we probably interrupted their collection within a state park because we rolled up behind them and they had found this really cool Central Texas whip snake, really neat banded pattern. And we were convinced they were just going to collect it. If we wouldn't have come up, they probably would have taken it home. But then we stayed with it and took pictures and released it, so they didn't get that one.
Good.
Yeah, and then they left right after we got there too. They didn't even really go up the trail or anything So yeah, it was kind of obnoxious, but yeah,
I knew Justin would have kicked their ass.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Is you should have just beat the shit out of them and just released them all back, taken their buckets and gone home.
What they were doing was legal. You can collect it as long as you're along the road or whatever. So what they were doing was perfectly legal. So I don't know. I just don't like. But and then like you were saying before, like the areas where roads go, there's so much more habitat beyond that road, and so they're just impacting a tiny fraction of the available population. And if you go on private land in Texas, you're probably going to get shot anyway. So I don't think it's worth it to go on the private land to collect stuff. But
yeah, I wouldn't recommend going on private land in Texas, even to just look for anything. Yeah. Texas isn't a place you want to get caught on the wrong side of the fence.
Right.
Nope.
Yep, they take their private land seriously out there.
Yeah, they tend to.
you can't be poking around for wall lizards in somebody's front yard in Texas. That only happens in
a little different.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, any other topics coming to mind? You got something?
Axolotls.
Okay.
Oh no.
No. It was a last ditch attempt, scratching at the bottom of the barrel, and Chris apparently didn't know. I didn't know it either until I was researching, and Chris read my notes, and I taught him something from it. But I think most of us know that axolotls were functionally extinct. Basically, they come from a little tiny bit in Mexico, and collecting them actually essentially preserved the species here in captivity. Whether it really preserved it or not is to be debated, though, because they were mixed with tiger salamanders. So who knows if it actually really has saved them. But hey, we still have them, I guess. So.
Yeah, no,
Oh, we lost you.
Oh boy, we lost you, Chris.
All of a sudden we can't hear you.
No, so this is...
There he is.
There he goes.
Oh, sorry about that. No, I'm going to speak just more generally, really, than arguing aside, which is that herping definitely seems to have climbed in popularity over the last 10, 15 years. You run into people more often. I think social media has really upped that, where people are able to share their finds and their photographs, and it gets people excited, and other people want to find. And I actually think that it is really cool that you're able to reach out to people who live in areas of the world that you've never been. Maybe you're flying to Australia and you're going to spend 2 weeks there, and if you didn't have some sort of a connection or even just that social media to help you find things, you wouldn't get the same experience. I'm sure you'd still have a great time. And I'll throw in for my argument, I definitely don't think you should ever share really sensitive spots for sensitive species that could suffer from it. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a level within herping where you can responsibly share information with people that you know are going, well, you hope are going to be respectful of the wildlife and the areas they live in. And I think that that's a really cool thing, that people are able to do that and experience these animals in the wild, because I think we can all agree that when you go and see an animal in the wild, especially if it's something you keep, it grows your appreciation for them, you learn about them, and it changes your view on how you keep them in captivity a lot of the time. So I would say that that's a really good thing, and it's really cool. And I'm not going to lie, as much as I'm saying I don't like sharing spots, it's really cool when people reach out and say, hey, I'm coming to Utah, I want to find this thing, what can I do, what time of year, whatever, right? Now when someone messages me and says, will you show me that Gila den, I'm going to tell them to bugger off and leave me alone. But no, if it's done respectfully and with respect for the wildlife, it is a really cool hobby to be a part of. So that's as much as I'll say to sort of help Aspen's side.
Just to echo what Chris said, basically, we kind of live in a day and age that it's unprecedented, really. It's easier than ever before to travel across the world, to visit places we've never been, to herp places that weren't possible to herp, or not very easily possible to herp ever before. And do your research, go out there, get outside, look for these species, but do your research. We have tons of materials at our hands. Buy a guidebook, utilize iNaturalist, reach out to people you might know or people that you've heard of out in the areas. Don't necessarily ask for locations. Don't be upset if they don't give you spots, but be willing to take any advice they give you and put that towards your research. In the end, it's definitely going to be much more rewarding when you find those species. to benefit Chris's point clearly. It definitely is far more rewarding when you research and when you've put in all this time, blood, sweat, tears, and everything comes together, and you find that price eye sitting out on top of a rock. It's a pretty great moment. So just do it respectfully and responsibly.
Yeah, and just one more thing on that. Aspen's not kidding about, well, two things. Aspen's not kidding about the blood part of the whole thing. I know he's had his fair share of cholla cactus and is stabbed into his body.
I won't even say
stuff
it.
Looking for reptiles, but
now that's a good time.
Yes, everyone loves cholla, but no, and that I'll say that right now. I welcome anybody listening that if you just want to learn proper herping etiquette, I may not have all the answers, but I will share every bit of proper herping etiquette that I know to try and help you to do things in the right way if you're new in learning and want to get out and maybe don't know things about flipping rocks and putting pieces of habitat back where they should be, stuff like that. I'm always happy to answer those questions.
Yeah, let's get a few of those out there. I mean, just what kind of, maybe your top 3 pet peeves or whatever when somebody goes out herping and does things, what shouldn't they do, I guess?
Don't show spots.
Wow.
There you go.
Number one, top of the list.
I think number 1 is just putting stuff back the way you found it. Leave no trace, the classic motto. If you flip a rock, and it's different depending on where you herp, but especially here in the West, where in the summertime microhabitat and moisture is so important to certain species, most species. If you flip a rock, put it back. I don't care if it's heavy. You got to understand, if you lift a heavy rock, you have to put that rock back as it sat. And we, especially here in Utah, like to kick the dirt in around that edge and form a seal again. Because a lot of times, if you don't replace that seal, within 2 or 3 days in 100-degree weather, that seal is gone and that rock is useless for the rest of the season. So that's a big one.
Yep, and I would also urge people to learn the laws of wherever they're going. Because laws are different from state to state, too. In some states, you can go and collect certain species legally or with a permit. And then in other places, depending on the species, the laws may even be so strict to say that you're not even supposed to manipulate the wildlife for a photograph. They don't want you to handle them. So learn your laws and try and respect those to the best of your ability, because, as always, the reptile hobby in general is always under attack, and you don't want to give them more reasons to not like us for doing things with reptiles. So learn your laws, respect them to the best of your ability, and even if some of those laws are really annoying or frustrating, or if there's private property that you can go find something on, but you're not welcome on it, well, that's an unfortunate thing. Hopefully you can warm up the owner of the private property to let you on it. But
Here. Yeah, that's... I heard a story, again, from Dustin, of one of his buddies that was out looking for price eye, and he was not looking to collect it or anything like that, just wanted to get pictures of it, and he and a couple friends were looking around, and he was up on a hillside, and his buddies were down in the valley, and he found a price eye, and he grabbed it and held it up and said, "I got a price eye," and all of a sudden a Fish and Wildlife officer walked out of the bushes and said, "Come here, son," and
they're watching. They're always watching.
Yeah, $5,000 fine. So that was an expensive lesson to learn.
We were up there in a spot that it was a spot, and we were up there looking for snakes and whatnot. And we just recently found a club, and we photographed it and whatnot. And 5 minutes down the trail, we came across a group of birders. And they're like, "Oh, have you seen any of the birds?" And we're like, "Oh, yeah, we saw this and that. You guys see any snakes?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, yada yada." And we tell them, "Oh, we just saw a rattlesnake just up the trail. It was a little clod ride." And he goes, "Oh, do you have it with you? Can I see it?" I'm like, "No, of course I don't have it, but I 90% sure he had a badge under his shirt going, hey, let's see it, Yeah. So definitely obey the laws and just be cautious and mindful of that.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, no booby twaps. No booby twaps.
In fact, I recently, well, not recently, last year I made a trip down to Arizona and went to a fairly well-known spot looking for some of the montane rattlesnake species. And I'm looking around, I'm looking by these fallen logs and trees and these rock outcrops, and all of a sudden I'm staring dead in the face a trail camera, and it was pointing right at a spot where people find them a lot of the time, and I'm like, oh, yep, they're always watching. Yep. It's funny because it was really well blended in. I didn't know it was there until I was staring right at it, which is often how I find rattlesnakes too.
I would say it's almost like it was a Cerberus.
Cerberus, yeah. That was a fun time.
Yeah. Well, and they'll put out decoys as well. So
yeah, they do. I hear
there was a fish and wildlife guy that had a Gila monster, and he'd release it onto the road when some herpers were driving by, and just wait there for them to pick it up or touch it or have a bag or something on them, and then he'd nab them. So yeah, even if they weren't intending to collect, they just wanted to get it off the road. They interfered with it, and so he would.
Wow, I guess there's no such thing as entrapment in wildlife. Huh? God,
exactly.
No joke.
Yeah, you got to watch yourself when you're out there. You don't want to be doing something.
They don't
stupid.
play games.
Get that $5,000 fine. I know. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I could afford that very well. I'd be in.
No.
Rather put that.
It's funny because
yep, exactly.
On that same Arizona trip, we cruised a dead Gila monster in the road, and the person I was with, it was their first time in that area, and they're like, "Oh, maybe we should move the body off the road." And I was like, "Nope, don't touch it." Just because it was one of those. I'm like, I don't know, maybe DOR had a dead Gila in the freezer and they thawed it out and threw it in the road and are waiting for me to move it, because even moving the dead ones can get you a fine. So even though I wanted to move it off the road, it was, nope, you're not supposed to touch them, so don't touch them.
Yeah, follow the laws. It's a good rule. But yeah, replacing rocks, I mean, just for the fact that people enjoying the landscape don't want to see some ugly scar of a flipped rock. That just looks bad. So if you appreciate the animals, you should also appreciate their habitat and understand those things. Also, I think handling or grabbing an animal a lot of times will alter its. Like you said, with the Gila, if you bug it enough, it might try to go look for another den or something, and that can be a bad thing. So. Yeah, we need to respect those things that we like. So, yeah. Well, any other final words of wisdom on this topic?
Just to follow up what you just said there, handling a lot of reptiles is fine, but definitely still respect them if you're going to handle them. One more real quick story. I just remember a time that me and Aspen came across a coach whip in southern Nevada. And it was gorgeous, bright pink, really pretty, and we were trying to get photos of it. And as you know, coach whips don't hold still. They want to bite you, and they're a very energetic species. Well, as we were trying to photograph it, we realized it's 110 out.
Oh, I remember this one.
We're messing with this thing, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, this thing looks like it's overheating. Like it's starting to show signs of that stress. And so we promptly let it go as soon as we saw that there may be an issue. But sometimes you get excited about what you found, and it's easy to almost overlook that the animal is stressed by that interaction. And sometimes the best, even though you want to get your perfect, beautiful, tongue-flicking shot of the snake, sometimes the right thing to do is just to let it go and not overstress the animals.
Yeah,
agreed.
I love that scene in Walter Mitty where the guy's out photographing snow leopards in Nepal or whatever, and he sees one. It comes into his field of view of his camera, and he just sits there and watches it, and he's like, "Aren't you gonna take a picture?" And he's like, "No, that's just for me. That one's just for me." I think that's kind of cool, to just be like, I saw it, I appreciated it, I don't need to post it to prove that it happened,
Even though they got the whole thing on film. All right.
It was all set.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
He wasn't a real wildlife photographer. That was Sean Penn, the actor.
It was Sean. The actor?
Ronald Reagan?
Actor? No, we can't get back on this. We got to do a different movie.
There you go. All right, well, thanks for coming on. This was a good lively topic. Not as much bloodshed as I was hoping for, but no.
You can only do so much when you're fighting uphill.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
fair.
Aspen was scared I might hurt his feelings, so
It's true. I'm a sensitive soul.
he's already worried about the backlash he's going to get when everyone finds
Oh, I
out
know I'm going to
that
get dirty
Aspen wasn't a
messages.
girl.
I'm going to get dirty messages. I already know it.
well, our 2 listeners won't bother you too much.
That's
They're
correct.
pretty good. Yeah. All
That must be us.
There you go. Anything new, exciting you've seen in herpetoculture or herpetology? Anything cool out there? I mentioned the one. I really enjoyed the videos of that Catchet guy out in the Galapagos. He's finding some cool. Just the 4K footage of a Galapagos tortoise is pretty cool to watch. If I can't.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I guess.
I think one thing I've liked seeing recently is there's been seems like in the hobby for keeping at least, there's been this big push lately of trying to preserve species that maybe aren't as popular. Maybe they're just like a boring brown gecko or a snake or something. And it seems like there's kind of been this recent rally behind like there's all these popular species, but don't forget about these other ones, because if we let them fall off the edge and fall out of the hobby of keeping, you may not have the chance to keep them ever again. So it's been really cool to see. I've seen keepers kind of popping up all over the place with these random species, which kind of is what helped prompt me to go buy that kukri snake, because I don't know very many people that work with kukri snakes, and the few that do are thankfully passionate, but it seemed like a species that would be fun to work with that isn't as popular, so it's cool to see that happening.
Doesn't Zach Loafman work with kukris?
I feel like
I thought he did. Maybe it's somebody else, but I thought it was Zach.
Maybe. I'm bad with names. I've potentially even talked to him, and I already have lost the name. But
Sack.
if you do, I'm sorry. Sorry, Zach, if we've talked.
Yeah.
Sack.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Wasatch or the Reptilian Nation show in Salt Lake. I saw
that
Chris
was cool.
and hung out with Chris a bit there and followed him around and stalked him.
Chris wouldn't let me tag along.
No.
He told me no.
Just a trip for him and his girlfriend.
That's exactly what it was.
That Herp Time booth was pretty sweet. He had some good kind of lesser seen stuff.
Yeah, that was cool.
Spherodactylus geckos and some cool anoles and stuff. That was probably the best table there. Other than mine, of course.
Right.
I was going to say...
that goes without saying.
Don't forget about your own booth. I mean,
Yeah.
I probably lost you some sales from talking with you too much, but it was fun to talk to you while we were there.
Yeah, no, that was cool. I always like to see those booths that have lesser, like it gets old when every table has ball pythons or crested geckos, and it's nice to see people working with their own little niche and their own little nipper.
That being said, it
Thank
sucks when that table with the rare stuff is a bunch of wild-caught imports that are half dead in the tubs. That sucks, but it's cool to see when it's done the right way.
Yeah. Oh, well, speaking of that, the emerald swifts, the Scaloporus, what's the Malachitas or something like that? Is that what
I know the exact ones you're talking about. I can't
Yeah.
remember the species. Yeah.
And they kind of went away, but they're like a pet store lizard, and they bring them in for really cheap. But he had captive bred babies. The Herp Time,
that's cool.
is it Armin? I'm so bad with names. He told me his name a few times, but really cool guy. I sat and chatted with him for quite a while. The Herp Time guy, but he had some captive bred emerald swifts at his table. So
Yeah, there was someone there with captive bred waxy monkey tree frogs too.
Oh yeah, Chris
And apparently
from,
that's
from
Malachiticus.
Malachiticus, yeah, that's right. Chris from Gecko Daddy. Yeah, he's.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, he's. I think he's the first one in the United States to breed those.
Really?
That's what I'd heard.
They're commonly imported, but he's the first one to captive breed those. And then from his efforts, other people have followed suit. I think Josh's Frogs bred some recently, as well as some others. But man, he figured them out and caught them to breed. And I think he's sharing his success, like the secrets of his success, with anybody who wants to know. Like, he's not keeping it a secret. That's cool. Like, yeah, he's a cool guy. I really like Chris.
He is cool.
He had his army of kids working the booth, and
people named Chris are usually really cool.
Shameless plug.
There you go.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. I picked up a couple new projects at the show. Well, one at the show, and then another. I thought about them at the show because Josh's Frogs were there, and sometimes they'll have the Binos geckos, but I just wanted to. I've heard they're really cool. They're like some people's favorite gecko. Like, I think it was like Joe Hupp, or maybe somebody said like the Binos were his favorite gecko. That's saying a lot because he's got a ton of geckos. But so I picked up a group of those, and I got some collared lizards from my buddy that I vend with.
Are they Easterns?
Those were cool.
Brody has some cool. I mean, captive bred collards are like chill as all. They just sit, hang out.
Yeah, they're so cool.
Stuff. Yeah.
Do you feed them lizards, or how do you go about feeding them?
I just got them this weekend, so I haven't had too much. I've been feeding them dubias, and mealworms, and they're juvenile, so they're not quite adult yet.
Okay.
I need to get them in a little bit bigger container because they're pretty active. Like, you need to get a pretty good size enclosure for them. But the one I've got is not too small, but it's decked out with a lot of places for them to climb. But man, they're just jumping all over and running around. They're a lot of fun to watch. So that's been nice, and he's done really well breeding them. So I think he's going out on a herp trip to observe them in the wild and kind of see, get some inspiration for keeping some other species and stuff. But yeah, he's done well with them and produced quite a few of them, so they're pretty cool. Well, where can people find you so they can ask you for herp spots?
The usual, Facebook and Instagram, just under Aspen Mayhem. Like Chris said earlier, if you guys want to talk herping, more than happy, hit me up. More than happy to share what I feel, or what I think the majority of us feel would be ethical herping, and how to target some of those species. Just because I argued for herp spots, don't necessarily expect me to tell you where to get Gilas, but again, more than happy to talk.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep, and if you're looking for herp spots, just don't look me up. No, no, you can just look me up on Facebook as Chris Allen Jensen's my Facebook, or Cash Herps is my Instagram, or my reptile business, which isn't super active yet, but it's picking back up again. It was more active back when I had my big short tail collection, but it's there too. But your people are welcome to reach out if they want.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, guys, and
thanks for having us.
It was fun.
That was a good time. Yeah. We'll give our shout out to the Podfather, Eric Burke and Owen McIntyre for starting this whole thing going and umbrellaing our show on their network. And check out MoreliaPythons.com. Is that right now?
Oh, come on.
Who put this guy in charge?
PythonRadio.com. There we go.
There
he was missing something in there.
Sorry, Eric. We did it again.
All right. Well, we'll catch you.
He's just back from France. Give him a break.
Yeah. Sacre bleu.
There's. Oh, never mind. I don't know why. Yeah. Anyway. Check us out again next week for Reptile Fight Club, if that's the name of this podcast.
I'm all herped out. Go Aspen.